Alright, so today I want to take a look through Blood Gulch for Halo 1. So last time we took a look at Rat Race and Chill Out, which are both maps that really shine in competitive 2v2s for Halo. Those are maps that, from kind of a casual first player experience, can be a little difficult to learn and a little confusing to navigate. But as you learn those patterns and start to understand the dominant strategies and counter strategies, those maps really shine and can be a lot of fun to play. Uh, but I think for most of us who played Halo back when it came out, Blood Gulch is kind of the map that stands out, and it's the one that we still think of in our memories. Um, when I think like, oh man, really wish I could get the guys together and play some Halo 1 again, it's to play Blood Gulch. Chill Out is the thing you can do in 2v2s. Blood Gulch is really where it shines if you're having a LAN party and it's 4v4s. The hard part, though, is Blood Gulch is a lot of different ideas and a lot of different experiences and memories all tied up together, and it's really hard to talk about that because the Blood Gulch, as we remember it, is kind of a thing of the past that I'm not sure we can really return to. I think, though, to start off, I'm just going to give us a tour around the map. I do have it set up as Capture the Flag with classic rules, but it's worth noting that this is the PC version I'm playing on, the Master Chief Collection. The PC version of Halo, for those who don't know, was handled by Gearbox originally, and they've got new weapons and new vehicles, and also a lot of the kind of default stuff has changed. The crosshairs are different. They added, on the console, the pistol's very accurate. It's overpowered. But for the PC port, they made the crosshair much larger for some reason, and also they added more weapon spread, as I recall. So there are a lot of little details that are pretty subtle. Some of them not so subtle, like we've got a fuel rod around here somewhere that just wasn't in the original map. But there are some weird things, and just keep that in mind that, even talking about this from kind of a retrospective, what was Blood Gulch, we have to keep in mind that I'm playing a Master Chief Collection update of a Gearbox port of a game from 2001, and I'm playing it with keyboard and mouse rather than an Xbox controller. So all these things add up and make the experience very different from what it was originally. Okay, so just for a tour to start with, I'm at Red Base, and my spawn when I hopped into the map was right here on the roof, which is kind of a surprising one. Most of the spawn points on this map are in a ring around the base. And there's the blue base on the far side of the canyon. You can just catch a glimpse of it. You can't really, that white couple pixels that I see right there is the health box, because it's rotational symmetry on the bases. And those are the only two health packs on the map, as I recall. There might be one in the caves, but I'm forgetting. And that's way outside of pistol range. But on each base there's a sniper rifle, and you can try and get jump shots. There's no movement penalty to your aim, so a jump shot can still be perfectly accurate. And the way the sniper rifle works in Halo, you've got the shield system, so one body shot will take out the shield, and I think also inflict a little bit of health damage. A headshot, even against somebody with full health and full shield, is an instant kill. So what you end up getting is teams on both sides dueling with the sniper rifles. It's very CTF face, if you've played Unreal Tournament, of snipers trying to impose dominance over kind of the midfield. But you can see, because of the rolling hills, I don't have direct visibility on the enemy spawn points. So for all those players that spawn around on the ground here, they're safely hidden from the enemy sniper up here. But what you do have is, of course, players can stand on the rolling hills. You've got this cave system that runs on the right. There's this back hill in kind of a shadow space. This isn't really that effective because it's behind the base, but we can come back to that in a bit. And then the really important one is this cliff ledge here. So obviously there's this path up the side, and there's this kind of pit that you can hide in as well. And one thing about this map that's, I mean, there are a lot of strange things about it, but like I've got red armor because I'm on a red team, and I'm against red rock. And imagine that we're playing this on CRTs. We've got 4-player split screen, 2 TVs. It's 4v4. So I'm just a couple of pixels, red on orange. It might be pretty hard to spot me if I'm back here. And there are a couple other spots on the map like this that red players have a significant advantage, not just from their armor against the background, but also like the base is just a lot better, which we'll get into. But you know, it's a map that's got this kind of symmetrical. You've got 2 bases, you've got 2 flags, capture the flag set up. We're trying to steal their flag, take it back to our base. They're trying to take our flag, take it to theirs. We both have the Warthog vehicle to drive around. You can modify the settings. Even in the original Halo, you could have ghosts instead, which aren't very fun compared to the Warthog at least. Or you could have a tank, which is a lot of fun. But from up here on this ledge, we've got a head glitch for one thing, which is basically, you know, the bullets come out of your visor. They don't come out of your gun. So if the other player can only see the top of my head, and you know my gun would actually be hitting the dirt here, I can still get a headshot. I can still hit them. So I've got a huge advantage from this ledge here, because I can now see all of their spawns, and I can just totally spawn camp them, which ends up becoming kind of the dominant strategy in Halo, or in Blood Gulch, is to control the enemy spawns. Well, first you get the sniper rifles off your base, then you get up to the hill, and then you spawn camp. And the other team tries to counter snipe you, or tries to race up here to get control. Or maybe they drive their Warthog up here to try and take you out. But it ends up being a lot of fighting for control of this offsite position in order to have this influence over the bases. Because if I'm blue team now, and I've got control of this hill, I can do something similar, not quite as strong, but similar, looking onto red base. Again, it's not quite strong because, like, you know, I've got maybe a head glitch advantage here against a player who spawns by this rock, but I'm much more exposed if a player spawns back here or back here, and I'm totally exposed if they spawn back here. But the important thing is really the main way they can take me out is with another sniper rifle. The pistol isn't going to be this effective at range, so the only thing I have to worry about is the sniper rifle here, and that sniper rifle there. And the only way for them to get up onto this rooftop, other than spawning on the rooftop, is through these 2 ramps, which both have very predictable paths, and pretty easy to control. So you end up getting a sniper up here that dominates, and you've got a pretty large amount of ammo. Like I think it's 20 rounds, 16 in my backpack and 4 in my clip that I had there. So, you know, if I'm any good with this, that's, you know, a couple team wipes at least. So you get control of this hill with your sniper rifle, and now your fellow teammates, if you're doing a 4v4, can hop into the Warthog, which is a 3-player vehicle, 1 player driving, another passenger, another gunner seat, and they can go for a flag run while you basically spawn camp them and prevent them from being able to defend their base. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the basics of it. There are a lot of other factors that make this more complicated than that, though, and I think one of them is that we have to keep in mind, again, 2001, when this came out, really the closest thing prior to this was GoldenEye for the N64. And GoldenEye had a really limited controller, and also like much smaller spaces than anything like this. So sniping as a skill was not something that people had really learned to do well within console gaming. On the N64, I think the analog stick, and there's only the one analog stick, so you move and then you press a button to switch to aim mode, and then you're using your move thumbstick as your aim thumbstick, but you're stationary, and it was really bad, and the analog stick only had like 6 degrees of sensitivity of tilt, so like trying to do any kind of fine motion with that analog stick was just not gonna happen. And again, you're now playing on Xbox, and it's 2001, and now you've got 2 thumbsticks. You've got one for moving, you got one for aiming, but still aim assist is kind of first generation approach to these things, and it's really hard to just move and shoot at this point. It's something that most of us just hadn't put the hours into being able to master yet. So when I say that, sniper gets up here and they've got a 20 round magazine, you say that now in 2020 on PC where I've got a mouse and I've got the input control of the mouse, that's 20 kills, right? But in 2001, a 20 round magazine or 20 rounds of ammo up on this cliff, and maybe that's 4 kills, maybe that's 1 shot at the flag. Like even back in the day, the way that we would play most of the time was without shields, because the mechanism in Halo, what really makes these distances playable at all is the recharging shield mechanic. So if I had a pistol here and I was trying to take shots at somebody who spawned outside the space, I could maybe hit them once or twice. And there's no damage fall off, but there's the weapon spread over this distance. So I hit them once or twice, I put a dent in their shield, they get into cover, and their shield regenerates, and it's as if nothing happened except that I wasted some ammo. But you get rid of the shield mechanic, and now I've chipped away at their health. And now the only health pack they can get is up on this rooftop. But, if you're all terrible at the moving and shooting mechanics, then, it's a lot harder to do that. But let's carry on with the tour. So in the middle space of the map, and again this cliff is really red base sided, but the middle space of the map we've got a teleport here and a teleport here. Both these are one-way exits, so I can't go back through these even if I wanted to. And there's this shrub with a rocket launcher. Again, it's red sided. It's on their half, but on the blue side there's a power-up. And this power-up cycles, so right now it's active camo, which makes me pretty invisible so long as I'm not moving or shooting. Yeah, so I'm pretty hard to spot right now. If I start moving, it's a little bit easier to spot me. If I shoot, I become fairly visible again. But this power-up cycles between active camo and overshield, so next time it spawns, it'll be an overshield rather than active camo. And if you want to really get strategic about how you play the map, you can kind of manipulate this so that you're setting up to make an attempt for their flag, which means we should have the active camo instead of the overshield, or the overshield instead of the active camo, one way or the other. And that means that you get mid-control, you set up for that, and then once it respawns, you can then go for the other base. But now on this side of the map, we've got this kind of dividing cliff. Up here, there's a cave system, which I'll explore in a minute. We've also got this weird kind of tucked away cubby that doesn't really do a whole lot. But the thing here that does do a lot is this corner. So this is another spot for the red team to really stack up and prepare to execute on taking the flag. And even before this, they can play this hill, controlling these angles, or loop around here, where they've got very strong control. You know, at this point, if blue team wants to push out of their base, their option is the teleport, which will pop them over there, or they've got to cross this field of fire, or they come up through the caves. So we can really isolate their angles much more than they can on the red base side. So I mentioned earlier that one of the weird quirks of this map is the kind of unintended camouflage. And one of those things here is this ledge. This is one of those that, you know, we probably played this map for hundreds of hours before we even realized that this was viable gameplay space. We thought this was just out of bounds. But this is kind of the closest thing that blue team has to a counter to the red team cliff. And this ledge is a lot harder to spot until you know where to look, because it's just kind of this red-orange stone on red-orange stone. And also it's a lot more exposed. Like I can't head glitch really like you can on the other one, but you can still get control with a sniper rifle over the majority of the red base spawns. Basically within this 3/4 of the red base, I can see their spawn points and have decent control of the ramps as well. And maybe I can counter snipe if they've got somebody on this cliff. But this is just kind of a weird thing because, like I said, it was maybe hundreds of hours of playing this map before we even realized we could get up there, and then once we did, it was this big question, like, is this an exploit? Is this allowed? And I'm still not sure if that was like something intended by the design or what exactly, but it's there, and you can use it. Alright, but now we're in blue base. And, you know, it's a simple ramp up. You've got this window through the ceiling that you can drop through to get the flag. And you've got another ramp down the other side. You've got these large battlement structures that give you pretty full cover. Your feet can be a little exposed here, which can allow the other team, you know, if they're set up on the hills. Again, there's that hill that we were just looking at there, I think. It just totally disappears. You know, if you've got a view onto the rooftop, then these kind of holes around the bottom of the battlements can let you anticipate your shot a little bit more easily. You can see their feet moving before their head lines up, which lets you anticipate their velocity and basically have your crosshair where you want it to be able to get an easier headshot. But now inside the base itself, it's got 2 doors, and these doors are these really hard commits. These are cases where, let's see, oh, do I not have any more frags? Well, I guess on that note, it's worth mentioning that the frags also spawn on the rooftops. Okay, so I do have frags. There we go, wrong button. Okay. Yeah, like a frag grenade here can pretty well control the entrances here. But once you push past this, you've got these really sharp angles where there could be an enemy on either side, and it's, you know, there's just not a way, especially on a controller back in the day, there's not a way to check both these corners quickly enough to respond. So you could very easily have somebody camping back here, waiting for them to peek out, and if they look the wrong way, then that's an easy melee kill. And a melee to the back in Halo is an instant kill, even if they have full health and full shield. So it's a very scary push to go through these, and it's symmetrical, so it's the same thing on the other side. So one option in trying to take the base is to have teams push in from both sides simultaneously and just try and cut their losses. One of our players is going to go down, but we'll trade into it. The other option, though, is to get top control of the base, which also helps with spawn camping if you aren't fast enough in the flag take, and then drop down through the window and then push out through one side. And that works a little bit better. The problem is you've got to do this really fast because of the spawn camping and the respawn times. So, we're in a Warthog, we drive up, I jump out, the driver and the turret guy are still doing loops trying to clean up anybody around the base. I jump into the base.
Red team has the flag.
Now I've got the flag, and now I've got to get out of here and hope that I check my corners and don't get whacked in the back by a player that I didn't see. So let's go ahead and drop that.
Red team has the flag.
So the other thing I can do here, if we've got top control of their base, is I can
Blue team
try and check
flag
these
return.
corners before I even drop, and I can also just chuck in a couple of grenades.
Red team
That lets me
has
be
the
a
flag.
little bit more confident with taking the flag. But now I've got the flag, and it's a long ways back to my own base. Like, it's basically 300 meters. If I want to walk this is a really long walk, and there'll be
Red
respawners
team
around me,
has the flag.
and my sniper probably doesn't have enough ammo. Even if I make it to the midfield, running across the map like this, this is where the teleport comes into play, and the other team can start teleporting into the side. So basically, my support teammates, the sniper, and any other players I have,
Red team has
need
the
to
flag.
pivot from spawn camping the base directly to camping the teleport exit to cover me as I run across the midfield. It's going to be a long journey to actually make that. So the other option is I come out of the
Red
base with the
team
flag.
has the flag.
I still got a little bit of support from the sniper, maybe some other teammate who joined me in this flag take. So I try and get onto the roof. Maybe I grab health if I need it, which also denies it from the other team. And then I use the teleport to try and get across. But from
Red
here,
team
like,
has
this is
the
kind of
flag.
the local low point, and same deal on the red side, where if I want to keep going this way, I am now re-exposing myself until I get over this next hill, basically, where I'm pretty visible
Red
from
team
any
has
sniper
the flag.
that spawns on blue base. So it's really tough to get a flag capture in this game. One thing that it's not a
Red
huge
team
thing in
has
Halo
the flag.
1, but in other Halo games it becomes a really significant mechanic, is flag juggling. It looks like on the PC version you can drop the flag by trying to shoot while carrying the flag. You can also melee with the flag, but I think in the original it was just trying to switch
Red
weapons to
team
drop the flag.
has the flag.
But the idea is that you can keep throwing the flag in front of you, and it inherits a little bit of your momentum, so you can do jump throws and stuff like that. And that lets you switch back to a weapon, take a couple shots, throw the flag again, and repeat that. The downside of doing this is that the enemy team has a marker for the flag
Red team has the flag.
when it's dropped. But when it's being carried, they don't have a marker. So I could be really sneaky and go through the caves, and they might be looking out on these hills. But if I drop the flag, or if I try and flag juggle, then they know exactly where the flag is. So it's kind of a
Red
trade-off
team
that,
has the flag.
again, I don't think was really an intentional design of the game, but it's one of those things that's kind of an emergent property of how more competitive Halo gets played.
Red team score.
All right, so those are the bases. I guess the next thing to cover is probably the cave systems. I guess before I do that, though, let's take a look at this hill. This is another just kind of weird artifact. I think the idea of this is that, you know, kind of an anchor position where I want to try to, like, I don't have a sightline on their base, so I'm not going to be able to help with flag capture. But I can defend my side of the base pretty easily and make sure that if they're trying to do a flag take, I can try and lock them out. Or like if they get up onto the rooftop and get into the base with the flag, we've bottled them up. But like you can do the same thing from this cliff, and you can do the same thing from, you know, this rock out here, or from this ledge out there, or even from their ledge if you get all the way out there. Not that that's a really good position to be in as a red team player, but I don't know, this kind of position all the way back here has so many trade-offs. Like, you've closed off so many of your options to respond. You kind of, I mean, literally put your back against a wall and removed your options. So it's, I don't know if it's really a noob trap, because it's also, like, this is another one of those things that took us a really long time to even realize was part of the map, not just off limits. You know, not as long as that ledge over there, because that one's pretty hidden. And this seems a little bit more deliberate, but it's kind of a strange position, and one of those that we tried to make work, but most of the time, you know, the other team can just drive their Warthog up to the base and take the flag and then drive out, and there's not a lot I can do. I mean, now on PC where I've got mouse input, it's a lot easier to hit my shots, so I would be able to do more about it. But again, 2001, Xbox controllers, the idea of first person moving and shooting being this very new idea that none of us are very good at, this position isn't very strong. So it's kind of a strange thing to have in the map. But the reason why I called it a noob trap is you look at it and you think, wow, that's a really strong hill. It's got this really strong rock cover that you can stand behind. You can see everything. You can snipe. This looks great. But the reality is that it's not actually that great. So it's one of those things that looks tempting, looks stronger than it is, and that can draw in new players. Alright, so now the cave system. The first one here we've got on red side. This one is blue team favored. So if you're on blue team, like, yeah, you don't really have easy access to this cliff that the red team has. But if you can push up through the caves, now you've got a couple pretty good spots here that you can peek around to try and control red base. You don't have control of all of these spawns here. It's not as strong as if you get control of the hill, but it's not bad. And there's kind of a similar advantage. Red team on the orange rocks kind of disappears. Blue team in the shadows disappears a little bit, not quite as much. But, and again, I'm talking like CRTs, 4-player split screen. You know, modern screens, that's not going to be the case at all. But, you know, the thing with this rock here is that it breaks up direct sightline onto the cave entrance in a way that really favors the team coming out of this cave. Because now I've got multiple options that I can take. It's a little bit of a weird ramp. It makes my movement a little clunky, but I do have some good options here. Now moving deeper into the caves, there's a little loop pillar. The caves, for the most part, don't get a lot of play because it's a very long path. Oh, there's another power-up. Okay, so I forgot about this one. There's one of these PC version weapons that wasn't in the original. So Flamethrower, not in the original as we played it. and there wasn't any other weapon here. But yeah, we've got another power up. So this one is red team sided. I forgot about this one. I forget if this one also cycles between being overshield and active camo. I assume so, but yeah, I better be careful in case I'm wrong. But yeah, these caves didn't get a lot of play, even though there's a power up in them. It's a really long path that's really out of the way. It's a lot slower than getting control of the hill and trying to do a teleport or Warthog push. So the weird thing with this as well is that, like, that exit to me feels blue team sided, and that stretch of caves feels like a good spot where some blue team players could try and prepare for an attack on red base. It's not as strong though as the red team trying to set up here and around this hill, but it also means that for the blue team to even get into that cave structure, we've got this gauntlet that we've got to run. And sure, we can drop down onto this hill, but like if they've got a sniper up there, or even a sniper on top of their base who hasn't gone up to the cliff yet, it's just, this is a really long path with no cover that we've got to run all the way just to get to that cave. And by the time we do that, they now know, hey, they've got 2 guys in the caves, they've only got 2 exits, just trap them in there and we'll take their flag while they're stuck. So it's a weird thing. But then if you get up through here, this now becomes very red team favored, where like if you're struggling to spawn camp on that cliff ledge, then you can absolutely spawn camp here. And again, if red team has control of this hill and control of this edge, then it's really easy to say, hey, you guys keep watching this. Sniper, you keep watching the teleport. Player 4, you go around through here, maybe grab the rocket launcher over there while you're at it. Come around through here. And now I can kind of anchor this position and keep the spawn camp going while my teammate on the cliff pushes up to another position. And we can basically just keep tightening our stranglehold of the blue team base until we're ready to commit to a flag capture attempt. And if somebody spawns blue base basically in this ring around the base, they've got this massive gauntlet that they've got to run, this huge kill zone with no cover to get up to this ledge. And like I can fall back into the cave, or I can duck around this pillar. This pillar is very much red team sided here. I can peek out from either side. And if I'm on blue team, there's no shortcut up this cliff. It's just gotta go all the way around here. And if I'm a red team player, I've got similar really weird pit on this side. So again, like if I want to hold kind of an off angle and keep up the spawn camp from a position they can't anticipate, then I can do this over here. And this is in pistol range. You still won't get one-hit kills like you can with the sniper rifle, but you can follow up. If your sniper gets a body shot, then it's pretty easy for me to clean up with a pistol here. So it's weird. It's this map that feels like you've got 2 bases, it's symmetrical. The main game mode that you're supposed to play on this is Capture the Flag, which is a symmetrical game mode, the way it's designed for Halo 1. But then the level design has all these little quirks that make it very red team sided. It's peculiar. Also, we've got a couple other little cave spots back here. They're kind of similar to what's going on behind the red base. But really the advantage here is lost in modern screens, modern computers. Because it's so easy to spot players these days. Back in the day, you could have exploited these positions a little bit more, just because of the screen darkness and screen resolution. Alright, so now I think the next thing to cover is the Warthog. So this is going to be a little bit weird because I'm playing again, keyboard and mouse, not on a controller. But you know, Warthog's very fishtaily, which makes it kind of a joy to drive on a controller. On PC, it feels a bit weird. But basically, the throttle is, you know, W and S, and your turning is with the mouse. So wherever I'm looking, the vehicle starts to drive towards. If I change my direction really fast, then it does a faster turn. And that's basically the same way it worked on controller, except that you know, with the thumbstick for your aim, it was harder to do these kind of 180 things, which meant that you know, it's a little bit more graceful with the vehicle. But again, imagine you know, if we decide, hey, let's try and take enemy team, let's try and take the enemy team's flag. Let's all, you get the sniper rifle off the roof, you go up to the cliff, everybody else pile in. Let's drive the Warthog. Let's try and do this in a way where their sniper won't see us coming. So that usually means you go through this kind of mid-space. And you've got a little bit of cover from this hill here as well. And then you start doing loops. You want to do this in a way that you can't easily be picked off. You don't have a predictable path where you can get fragged. Because, well, let's just jump out and demonstrate. Yeah, there's a decent amount of time between a frag hitting the ground and exploding. And also, they're floaty enough that there's quite a bit of lead time. So if I've got a Warthog coming towards me, they've got a lot of time they can try and react to that grenade. Oh, that's not what I want to do. There we go. I guess worth noting as well, the vehicles in Halo 1 don't have a damage model on them, so you can just keep shooting this thing and it won't blow up. You can use the rocket launcher and you know, you can blast it around and it'll still persist. And even if you flip it, the players can interact to flip it. Oh, that's... there we go. Alright. So the interesting thing with this is that you have the Warthog as this really strong asset for a flag tank. If I've got the flag, I guess let's just demonstrate it. I can't drive the Warthog if I've got the flag, but I can hop in the passenger seat, so my teammates can drive me.
Red team has
Which
the
means
flag.
that if we're trying to do a flag execute with Warthog, we need to have at least one more player alive to be able to drive me out of here. Yeah, look how useful I am over here. I can't even melee from the side seat now, but I can still drop it, which I'm not sure if that was an original thing or if that was
Red team has the
an
flag.
addition. I guess one other thing to note while I've got the flag is that the reset rules are like it's time-based. I think in the default rules, there are some options in the configurations to make it a touch reset instead. But I think the
Red
default
team has the
was
flag. Blue team,
a timer
flag
expiration.
returned.
It's a pretty fast expiration, so if you don't have any teammate nearby, you know, if your teammates are respawning over in red base and you drop the flag, there's just no way they're going to get it in time. It really means that you have to be grouped together when you try and take the flag. But what I was saying about the Warthog is that if you try and do one of these takes with Warthog and you fail, the Warthog persists. The Warthog doesn't get blown up and reset, which means that if we all die, when we've got the Warthog right here in their base, they now have 2 Warthogs, and we have none. So what ends up happening, at least in the LAN parties I've played with Halo, is that the Warthog becomes kind of the secondary objective that you want to control. The Warthog is your fastest way around the map, and the fastest way to try and execute flag takes. So, often the first thing you're trying to do, before you're even trying to take the enemy's flag, is take their Warthog. You know, you set up your sniper on the ridge, you get the rocket launcher, you get cave control, whatever you want to do. You spawn camp them, and you take their Warthog. You don't even worry about their flag, you just take their Warthog. And once you've done that, you drive it all the way back to your base. And you can put it up on the hill if you want to. Or, what we like to do, was just ram it into the base like this. Because now, in order to get the Warthog out of here, they've got to get into the base, which is already this really dangerous position where they can get trapped easily, and they have to hop into the driver's side, and like it's difficult to get Warthog out of this situation. And you know, if we want to, oh yeah, there's this exploit as well that you can use. So very much not intended. But you can use this position. You know, you're really exposed to grenades here, so it's not actually useful at all, but it was something that we would play. But you can use that to hop out and try and get around this Warthog to get to the driver's seat, to try and get the Warthog back out of here. But, like, that's a lot of time where it's really easy for a team to respond. So basically it just locks out one of the Warthogs and stores it for backup. So we tuck this one Warthog away, we don't have to worry about it. We got our own Warthog. Now, worst case scenario, we drive our Warthog over to their base, we wipe out, we all die, and we still have backup Warthogs, we're still on even footing. So it's this kind of hidden resource on top of, you know, power weapon control and power-ups and map positioning. The Warthog, though, is this really versatile, well, if you get mastery of it, it can be a really versatile way of getting around the map. There's a game mode, which maybe I'll show in a minute here. There's a game mode called Race, where each team gets a Warthog on spawn, and they've got a series of checkpoints to run into. So you can drive around the map, and it's basically just a relay race game at that point. Or I think the way that was actually intended is, you know, you choose to fight at certain points. You grab the rocket launcher, and now it's this trade-off of, do I go for the kills and stop them from being able to complete objectives, or do I just keep driving the Warthog around? But the way that we ended up playing it locally was just as a racing game. Because some of these spots that really aren't intended as driving spots are totally possible once you get the hang of the Warthog. And if you get good with the Warthog, you can just you can run the whole course. But the thing I do want to come back to is, again, the perspective from when this game came out in 2001, because, you know, like I said earlier, the only thing of comparison for us who played mainly console games at the time was GoldenEye. And sure, GoldenEye had like the snow satellite level that was open but had really restrictive fog. But you know, that kind of had rolling terrain, and at the time that was pretty exciting. But I don't know. I feel like a lot of the multiplayer level design of the time was a lot of these kind of box rooms tied together by corridors. It was very Quake and Doom still. And seeing something like this wide open space, like at the time, this is a huge map. Like even now, like if you try and make this map with modern fidelity, the modern expectation of graphics, and you do. Right now this is just a flat texture basically, but you do normal maps, you do specularity, you do basically 4 textures stacked on top of each other, and you do like vert painted. Well, I guess it probably already is vert painted, but you do all of the photo-based rendering of modern expectations, and a map like this becomes really expensive from performance. So that this map existed at all in 2001 was already this kind of mind-blowing thing. And then that it has vehicles they can drive around. And that the vehicles create these story moments of like, hey, let's drive our Warthog to their base. You drop out of the passenger seat, you take their Warthog, we'll both drive back. And now we're in a really good position to go for flag capture. Those kind of things are... There was nothing like it at the time. I think like the closest comparison was a couple years later in like 2003, 2004 with the Unreal tournaments that came out, and those were PC focused. There were the Unreal Championships, but those were, as I recall, a lot more of the arena shooter stuff, and a lot less of the. I don't remember them having the vehicle assault and onslaught modes of the PC Unreal Tournament 2003 and 2004. So yeah, it was just this really incredible sandbox of options. I think the other thing I want to clarify, like I mentioned at the start of this, that it's difficult to talk about Blood Gulch because it meant so many different things. And most of what I've been talking about here is the context of like a 4v4 competitive game. But there was no Xbox Live, so LAN parties were kind of the only way to get that experience for Blood Gulch. You try and play this 2v2s, and this map is way too big. There's not... Like, this map is kind of a promise more than it is a reality. You run around this map, it's like, oh man, this would be so cool if we could get enough players. This would be so cool if we could have one guy up here sniping and one guy back here sniping and somebody sneaking through the caves and all drive the Warthog and yada yada yada. It's a fun map to think about. But I think the reality in 2001 was maybe you get a 2v2 on this map if you're lucky. And when that happens, it's not as fun. You've got to find ways to make it fun. Like the race mode was a way to kind of drive conflict within a smaller 2v2 or 1v1 context, because it really focuses the combat in on the checkpoints of the race. Or you hop in with tanks, which I could see about showing in a little bit here. And you drive around with the tanks and you have tank battles, and you set the players have massive health pools, and it's a very basic tank battle game at that point. Or something that we would do is we'd give all the players active camo on spawn, and give them sniper rifles on spawn, and we'd play hidden snipers, and we'd have these really long duels. But I think the way that we want to remember the map, the way that we talk about the map when we talk about Blood Gulch, is that 4v4, or even more than that, competitive LAN party setting, where it's this incredible story generator of like, oh man, we almost got the flag, and then they recovered, and then we lost our Warthog, and we had to take it back, but our sniper held them off, and all the different systems of the sandbox coming into play. Now, I think why that's kind of a lost thing is, again, these other factors of the time. Like, playing on controllers with very little mastery over moving and shooting mechanics. I think you play this map now, you play this on PC with mouse and keyboard, and spawn camping was already a problem in 2001. Spawn camping already is the dominant strategy. You want to take that flag, you spawn camp. You make sure they can't have any hope of responding. And then you take the flag, well, they're all dead. That's a pretty miserable strategy, at least to be on the receiving end of. You play this map now, where players are much better with controls. The controllers themselves are a lot higher fidelity input, or you play a mouse and keyboard and it's even higher fidelity. It's just going to be miserable. And it's a weird thing. You talk about Blood Gulch and people think of, oh man, the sandbox, or all these things, all these experiences, all these stories that came out of this map. But it's also, that's kind of the promise of the map. That's the dream. And the reality is a lot more messy. It's a weird map to think about because, I wonder, how can you make a map? How can you make a map in 2020, 2021 that sparks the imagination and excitement in the same way that Blood Gulch did in 2001? How do you make a map where you can run around this solo like I did for hundreds of hours and just think about, oh man, if this tactic and that tactic, and ooh, if we do that, and maybe it's really hard to think of a map that could achieve that. I think as one final note, to close this video out, one thing about this map that really can't be overlooked is just all of the aesthetic of it. I've got the audio turned down a little bit so you can hear me rather than too much of the game audio. But there's this nice ambient, birds, and it feels warm. It feels like this is your summer hangout map, right? You've got a nice bright day with beautiful sunlight. You've got this gorgeous lens flare going on. But it's bright. Even the shadowy parts of the map, very easy to spot, especially these days. But it's a map where you can just chill out, much more so than chill out itself. It's a map where you get up to a high point and you can just see everything. Sure, maybe there's somebody hidden back there in those caves, or maybe over here in those caves, or maybe somebody got sneaky and hid back up there. But I see the whole map. I can just take it all in, and what's left is a lot more mechanics. It lets me focus on the things that at the time we were terrible at. Focus on moving and shooting, and because we were so terrible at those things, we had to compensate in other ways and trying to come up with these crazy tactics around driving Warthogs and stealing power-ups and setting up these elaborate defenses around the bases. So it's a very strange map. It's a hard one to grapple with because, in my mind, it's so interconnected with the time, and it's hard to imagine something else like this again. But thank you all for joining me on this tour. This is Blood Gulch, and this is a very beautiful but very, very strange map.